And really what it comes down to, I think, is a lot of that being genuine and authentic and being a leader. You serve a lot of different people within this role. You have a whole staff of people that have expectations of, what their role is within the organization. Of course, you have, ownership that you have responsibility for. And then you have a fan base, a very big fan base that have high, high, high expectations of not just winning on the field, but hard-earned money and how they're spending that money. And they want to have an experience, and they want that experience to be better than any other experience that they could have with that money they're spending. So you have to service a lot of different individuals in this role to make sure that everybody is as happy as they can be at any given moment.
I'm Felicia Shakiba, and this is LeaderBook AI, where we solve a business challenge in every episode. Imagine taking one of Major League Soccer's oldest clubs from worst in the league to champions, while managing not just a team, but an entire ecosystem, a youth academy, a high school, a community, and 26,000 fans expecting excellence every weekend. That's Tom Braun's world. From investment banking during the recession to president and COO of the LA Galaxy, he's learned that the secret to winning on the field starts with how you lead off of it. Tom, it is an incredible honor to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you went from investment banking to leading in sports. What made you walk away and start over in a new type of role, new industry?
Yeah, what a pivot, huh? Going from iBanking to sports is not a traditional path. At least it wasn't a traditional path when I first took it. I think it's becoming a bit more traditional these days. But for me, it was seeking a passion. It was wanting to do something that I was truly passionate about. So I went from being a VP at an investment bank based out of Washington, D.C., to being an unpaid intern at AEG, which is the parent company of the LA Galaxy and LA Kings. And I've been able to I think I've been with AEG for about 12 years, going from an unpaid intern sitting in a cubicle to being fortunate enough to be in my role I'm in now as president and COO of the LA Galaxy.
Wow. So sports has been in your life for some time now. Is that safe to say?
Sports has been in my life for my entire life. My entire life, I've been involved in sports. Now, I haven't always been involved in soccer, but I've always been involved in sports. I've always had an interest and an appetite for watching and being a part of sports. So when I decided to go back into sports, I had an opportunity. And my opportunity in sports was at the time with the LA Kings, so the NHL team here in Los Angeles, and the LA Galaxy and with the parent company AEG. So I grew up as a baseball player. I always played baseball. I pretended for a period of time that I'd be a basketball player, despite being semi-tall, not tall enough or not athletic enough to be a basketball player, and certainly not a football player. Baseball was my path, but my opportunity came in soccer.
Got it. And I actually was a soccer player, so it speaks to my heart.
I think everybody at some point has been a soccer player when they're kids. It's just such an accessible sport. It's a wonderful sport for people to be a part of. And I coincidentally I coached my 6 year old's U7 team every weekend at the Galaxy Thunder Tornadoes. So it's a great sport for everybody.
Wow, that's exciting. That's fun to be able to play soccer, on and off the clock, I guess, is what you're doing. You can't get
That's
enough of
really what
it,
it is.
Tom.
Can't get enough. I have two little boys, and they love soccer and they love the Galaxy. And yeah, I think soccer makes up about 24 hours of every one of my days. So there are worse things than having soccer a part of your life.
I would agree. I would agree for sure. When you first joined AEG and the Galaxy, what surprised you most about how the business of sports really works behind the scenes? And I think that this is a question that everyone, I think, really thinks about.
It's a great question. So my background didn't necessarily transfer into sports. So I worked for an investment bank. I did it during the recession, and sports isn't investment banking. We have finance, but it's more of a traditional finance and accounting, and it's not investment banking. So my transition, I had to find a path for me that allowed me to use what my skills were, but be able to translate them into sports. And for me, my start came in data and analytics. I have a interest in numbers and an understanding of numbers. So I decided that I was going to use my interest in numbers and kind of parlay that into a data and analytics role. And I guess when I first got into sports, and I think what a lot of people think is that sports are very robust and there's a million people doing a million things. Sports teams are scrappy. They're a scrappy bunch, especially an MLS team. We work incredibly hard, incredibly hard for everything. And sometimes, if you're a fan, you might not realize how hard a staff of individuals are working to see what you see every day or what you see when you come to games. Because when it comes to brands, one of the biggest brands in the world, right? When you think of LA Galaxy, you think of the likes of David Beckham and Zlatan
Oh, yeah.
Ibrahimovic and Landon Donovan. You assume that there's an army of people behind the scenes that are making all this happen. But the reality is we're a lean group and we're a scrappy, hardworking group. And you got to get the most out of everybody, whether it's the players on the field or your staff, so that you can deliver at a high level. Because those expectations, they don't change. They're always going to be really high, especially with a name like the LA Galaxy. People expect when they come to a game that they're going to have a really great experience and they're going to see really great performance on the field and hopefully get a win.
Yeah. And I think that that's why, people come is for the love of the game and I'm sure other reasons too, but you've spent 12 years at the Galaxy. And I mean, I think it's really interesting because you went from intern to president. I think that world at every level. So what did you learn about leadership, watching others before you took the top seat?
Yeah, I think having spent so much time with this club and in this league and with AEG has been so pivotal to having success in the role I am now. There's so much that goes into making the Galaxy function that just moving in and starting this position without having some background, I think would be really challenging. So I'm fortunate enough that I've been here for about 10 years before I had the opportunity to move into this role. And really what it comes down to, I think, is a lot of that being genuine and authentic and being a leader. You serve a lot of different people within this role. You have a whole staff of people that have expectations of, what their role is within the organization. Of course, you have, ownership that you have responsibility for. And then you have a fan base, a very big fan base that have high, high, high expectations of not just winning on the field, but hard-earned money and how they're spending that money. And they want to have an experience and they want that experience to be better than any other experience that they could have with that money they're spending. So you have to service a lot of different individuals in this role to make sure that everybody is as happy as they can be at any given moment.
I think you said something really important, which was that authenticity. And I'm glad you shared that. It's something that we find in our research, what makes great leaders and what really moves the needle. And I think authenticity is a really big part of that. And so I feel like you had a really great experience looking at what good leadership looks like from the very beginning of when you stepped foot, in the stadium. So I think that's really important. What do you see, or if like you could provide an example, what does authentic leadership look like to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think no one knows when they move into a role like this kind of exactly what it's going to be like until you sit in the seat and you understand the responsibility. I think when people first move into the role, you oftentimes try to replicate maybe what someone did before you, right? Or how someone found success before you. But I think I would say in some ways my superpower or in some ways how I lead is I want to be genuine. I want to be authentic and I want to do it my way and how I can best be successful. And that's not like anybody else. I know that in some ways I'm good at some things and I'm bad at some things. And I want to make sure that I'm leading at the best of my ability and not someone else's ability. So I try to hone into those areas at the best I can and try to find improvement in the areas that I'm not the best at. Because day after day within a role like this, what you say matters and it compounds on itself. So at any moment, if you're not being authentic or genuine, uh, you'll get called on it and you will have to then own up to it. So I think it's important no matter what you say, you're genuine and you mean right by what you're doing.
We'll be right back. Back to the show. And I think you also hit on another nugget there, which was what works for you isn't what is going to work for every leader. And I think oftentimes we're always trying to look for patterns in leadership, which I think is still important. But the authenticity is a pattern that looks different to different leaders. So I think that's kind of a golden nugget that you've shared. What was the first thing that you knew had to change to rebuild the momentum? So, again, you went from inheriting a team that wasn't so great, maybe not winning, to now a championship team. What was the first thing that you wanted to change?
Yeah, so when I first joined the organization, say 24, we had won an MLS Cup that year, and we were fortunate enough to be champions. And then we went for a 10-year period of time where we weren't champions. In fact, we struggled a bit on and off the field. And you had to instill a belief in an organization and a fan base to believe in something that they haven't believed in a really long time. First, we had to show that things were different. I think some of the criticism I might have received at any point was, how would I be different? If you have been here for 10 years, how's anything that you're going to be doing different than anybody who might have come before you? And that was the challenge for me initially, was to show that I think whether myself or others were different and we had to do things differently. So we went on a clear path to have a strategy, in what that strategy was and how we were going to build upon that strategy. And we focused a lot of our efforts on fan experience and season ticket members. And for us, fan experience and season ticket members really drive everything that we do. Now, don't get me wrong, winning is important and paramount. You got to win. However, there's a lot of people who come to an LA Galaxy game and they might bring their kids or family members or friends. And at the end of the day, they might not remember in 2 to 3 weeks wins and losses, but they'll remember how you felt, how you made them feel. Did they enjoy their time there? Did they have an exciting time? Did their kids love it? And it's that stuff that matters. And sometimes with wins or losses set aside, how did you make me feel and how did you make me become passionate about the LA Galaxy or the club? So a lot of our effort and a lot of our emphasis is just simply on fan experience and making sure that we're giving the best fan experience that we can in MLS or we can in Los Angeles.
I do feel that sentiment because I've been to multiple games, whether it be baseball or soccer, and it does change from one stadium to the next or, from one company to the next. And so that fan experience, I think for me personally, would be, a deciding factor of whether I would go to a game or not. Who would I go with? And is it accommodating? Is it going to be comfortable? So I do think that that does hold a lot of weight into whether the stadium or the games will be successful and full. What specific decisions or culture shifts helped turn the Galaxy from, last place to really gaining more momentum?
Yeah, so I think a couple things that would shift the momentum. We needed some decisive decision making. What are we angling for? What are we trying to accomplish? So in that first year, when I assumed this role, was we made some big decisions. We changed our game presentation. We brought in DJ stages. We enhanced our soccer fest. We made these big decisions to make sure that when someone walked into our stadium that first year, they didn't know what to expect. We kind of kept them on their toes, thinking, what more? We went on to then review a lot of surveys and understand from our surveys, what did our fans actually want? And things like we replaced all of our seats in our lower bowl. Wildly popular, but less fun to talk about, is our fans really wanted our restrooms to be redone. So we redid our restrooms. We announced a couple of weeks ago that we were installing Wi-Fi into our building. Our stadium was built in 2003. And it's a surprise. It's the oldest stadium in Major League Soccer, despite being only 22, 25 years old. I still think it's the best experience in Major League Soccer. I still think it's one of the best experiences in professional sports. But we have to continue to find ways to invest into our building to make sure that no matter when you're coming to a game, you're feeling a little bit something different than you did the game before. Just outside of the wins and losses, the energy that you will feel in the building.
Well, I think that's something that is really intuitive from a leadership perspective. I mean, a lot of times leaders, they float at the top and they don't really go down to like, what is that fan experience? What is, if I were a fan and going there for a day, what does that look like? What's my experience? And kind of getting into the details. And it sounds like you really did that. I mean, I would assume the same thing. I would say, hey, yeah, if I wanted to go to a stadium and at some point I'm going to need to go to the restroom or grab a snack, like what do those experiences look like? And I think you went there, like you did that and you showed that empathy for the fan, if it sounds like.
Yeah. And I think I can convince anybody to come to an LA Galaxy game one time. And I think I would challenge any other sports team. The challenge isn't getting somebody to come to a game one time. It's never been about getting someone to come one time. You can convince somebody to try it one time. It's getting them to come back. It's getting them to come back a second time, a third time. How are you building that avidity? Because if they come one time, that's okay. But really, the challenge is giving them such a great experience that they want to come back more and more until they maybe then decide at some point, hey, I really want this to be part of my life. I want to be a season ticket member, or I have built up this avidity for the club where I need more information. I need more content. I need to start following them on social media, or I need to buy a jersey. And some of that comes with time, but you have to be able to warm them up where it's not just that one touch point, it's all the touch points where you're really creating avid fans out of just that one time they might come to a game.
You've shared that authenticity is everything. How do you how do you keep communication genuine when pressure and maybe public scrutiny are a constant or in the moment? Because I think that's really where authenticity gets tested.
It does. It does. Anybody who's leading a sports team will know that you'll get challenged at any moment on any day. And it's so easy to do it now with social media and people's ability to make comments without knowing all the information. And you have to have a strong sense of knowing what you're doing is right and you're approaching it in the right way. So I make it common practice that I will walk out and meet with all our fans on the concourse before games. We have tailgating in our parking lots, and oftentimes our fans will come hours before the game. They'll tailgate, they'll grill, they'll have some drinks, and they'll come into the game. We'll go out to the tailgates and we'll just check in. We want to listen. We want to listen. Are you having a good time? Are you enjoying your experience with the Galaxy? And more times than not, it's overwhelmingly positive. But occasionally people will give us constructive feedback. We're not going to bat 1,000. We never will. However, we do want to hear the constructive feedback because we can make it right. We can fix it and we can make it better the next time. Right. And I think where people stumble or teams stumble is when you don't listen. And that stumble compounds on itself. And then you stumble again and you stumble again. We're never going to be perfect, but we can do our best to be as perfect as possible, but to fix it when we're not perfect. And
Yeah,
how
yeah,
else
having that.
yeah, that's the only way we're gonna know to be better is if we're listening to our fans, whether it's through surveys or just straight engagement with them one to one. Tell us what it is that you're looking for. I also listen to quite a few podcasts specifically about the team. We have some really great fans that and media that do podcasts about the Galaxy, and they do it independently, and they talk about how they're feeling about the club. They have people call in, they have people write comments, and they'll be genuine about what they want to see or not want to see with the club. And you absorb it, you digest it, and then you try to make decisions based off that. So I think in the past we were met with some challenges because we didn't do a good job listening to our fans. We weren't hearing them and what their expectations were. So it's been a big part of our process now to make those changes. And I'll say too is oftentimes people don't realize fans might not realize you've made changes or you've done certain things, and it's important to communicate it. Sometimes, and that's also true with staff, right? And you have to tell someone one time, two times, three times because it might not hear you the first time. So if you made a change for the positive, communicate it, share it with them, and let them know, and take a little bit of credit for the changes you've made.
So it sounds like keeping that authenticity is related to, how often you not just collect that feedback, but who you collect it from and how you kind of redeem yourself. Here are the changes and here's what we're communicating based on what we've heard.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think it's really important to be able to communicate it back. And it's the same thing with staff. And then I know this is about leadership, but your staff oftentimes will ask for things and expect things. And sometimes you do it. Um, but sometimes they don't realize it. So you have to constantly communicate to them, like, here's what you asked for, and this is how we responded to that ask. And it's no different from staff and fans that you're constantly showing ways to have this improvement, and then you're letting them know what you did as a response to what they asked for. I think it's important.
Yeah. How do you build the trust, not just inside the front office, but, with players, with fans, and the broader LA community? And I feel like you touched on this a little bit because you have that redemption and asking for feedback piece, but, that's authenticity. How do you actually build the trust over time?
Yeah, I think it takes time. I think you set the example. I think when you're in this position, and you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, where sometimes people in this position will float above and not get their hands dirty. I think it's critical that, and this is the case at the Galaxy, that there's nobody that's above it. And we'll do whatever it takes, whether it's setting up folding chairs to you name it. Our leadership team we'll do it. And we have to do it. And I think that sets the example for others who might be new to the organization or younger in their careers of here are the expectations that if I'm willing to do something, I would hope you're willing to do something too to make this club better. So we're a super scrappy group, as I said, and I think that that comes across with fans too. And with fans, you can't just show up in the good times. You also have to show up in the bad times. You have to be visible because there are bad times and there will be good times. But if you're going to be visible and you're going to listen, you should do it no matter what.
Yeah. And something that I love that you do is that you operate a youth academy and even a high school on site. Why invest so deeply in developing future players and humans rather than just chasing, star signings?
Yeah. So I'm glad you bring it up. So we're different than a lot of American sports. A lot of Americans aren't used to hearing about an academy system or a second team. Most people are familiar in American sports with the first team. And in our example, that's the LA Galaxy. But we have a whole built out boys academy ranging from U12 to U19. But there's a few hundred boys that are part of that academy. We also have a second team called Ventura County FC, which I would say, if you're not familiar with it, it's like AAA baseball. But when it comes to our boys' academy, we have about 85 high school aged, so really eighth grade through senior in high school that show up to the stadium every single day. They have teachers, they have curriculum, and they not only become really good soccer players, it's critical for us that they become really good men. In fact, I would say it's better for us that they become really good men versus really good soccer players. But it's critical for us that we are building up uh, a great soccer team. And so a number of those boys that come through our academy, we've had kids that start with us at 12 years old that will come up through our team and make our first team. And a really good example of that is a kid who isn't with us anymore, but played with us last year named Jalen Neal. Came through our academy and was a great example. We have another kid who's on our team now named Harper Miller, who again came through our academy, attended our school, and now is competing at a high level on our first team. But it's very different. You're not seeing other American leagues and sports or teams that have built out academy structures or schools that they're operating.
We'll be right back. Back to the show. So we have a program called Emerging Leadership, and so it's for those who are not yet leaders. I feel like your program is like emerging playership, those who are not yet players, but the sooner that education is or that experience of playing soccer and learning how to collaborate and learning how to pass the ball and then honing in on your skills and understanding strategy. I mean, the sooner that you can do it and make that introduction, the better. And it sounds like that is just like a great place to really bring in some great players and people who just really love the game.
Yep. The talent pool in Los Angeles is so rich with soccer players. It's so embedded in our community. In fact, we go deeper than just 12-year-olds. So we will go and we really start our youth programming at 18 months old. So if you're 18 months and you can walk, and my kids have done it. If you can walk, we have something called Galaxy Juniors, and it goes from 18 months all the way up to 7 years old. And then we have another program from 7 years old to about 12 years old called skills training, where you get on the field, you get a coach, and you're just learning the basics of soccer. Like you said, it's a lot about coordination, fundamentals, and just being a part of the game. Because I deeply believe that if sports have a huge impact on kids' lives and positive experiences with sports has a huge impact. And we talked about at the beginning, I'm a U7 AYSO coach. And I don't care if we win or lose on the weekends, but I care if those parents and those kids have a really good time and have a good feeling about soccer and about being part of the team. And for us, that's critical here. So the dream one day is that we could have a kid who maybe is part of our Galaxy Juniors program at 18 months, someday starring on our first team along the likes of guys like Landon Donovan. Now, imagine if you were a high school kid and you're part of the Galaxy's Academy, you come to school every day at the same place that some of these major soccer icons are at, where you are going to school, but you also are training alongside them. So you're learning from some of the best of that play. So Ricky Pouge is an example of a star in our league. He's one of the guys on our team where our players can see how he plays, so they can see how he interacts with the media, can see how he handles himself in certain situations. And they can learn from it and become better professionals. And again, hopefully better men.
Wow, big shout out to Ricky. So you've talked about the fan experience as your real true mission. What does it take to make 26,000 people? That's a lot of people really feel like they belong, whether they win or lose. And I will admit there are some diehard fans that they don't want to walk away from a losing game, right? But how do you keep that belonging so they do walk away, win or lose, in a happy or contentful
Yeah.
demeanor?
Yeah. Well, I think everybody wants something different, right? I think everybody wants to see the Galaxy win. That's unquestionable. We want to see the guys play well, score goals, and have an exciting game on the field. But everybody is hopeful for something else when they walk away, and it's really just a good positive experience. When you drive down our driveway, did you have a good experience with our parking attendants? When you scanned your ticket, did you have a good experience getting in the door? When you went and bought a hot dog or nachos or whatever it is, did you enjoy it? Did you feel like there were a lot of offerings that you like? In Los Angeles, we have vegetarian options and you can get a acai bowl or you could get a pupusa but you also have the traditional things like hot dogs. So people want different things. And then getting out of the building, did you exit? Was it easy? And I really truly believe that little gains add up to a lot. So in every interaction adds up to a lot. Even if it might seem like the most miniature thing, but are you making somebody's day better? Is it changing the restrooms, for example? Is that making someone's experience better? We have this new program here where if you walk around and you interact with any of the Galaxy staff, we have coupons that you can go get a free churro, for example. Did you have a better experience because your son or daughter got a free churro from the LA Galaxy? I think the answer is yes. And if you can make a kid happy, you can make a parent happy. So all the interactions I think are really important. Now, we have a really strong group of individuals here that works really hard. And oftentimes on game day, we're reliant on maybe somebody who is a part-time team member. And that part-time team member maybe doesn't know the history of the Galaxy or maybe doesn't know certain things about the club. It's important that they are given the opportunity or best position that they can instill the best experience on our fans, the ones that are really on the front lines dealing with the fans on a day-to-day basis. So how are we best positioning them as well to make sure they're delivering it, the best experience that they can, not just the full-time team members?
It is a true experience, and now I'm gonna go and get a churro, so thank you for that tip. Tom, this has been really wonderful. I am really excited to go to a game. I hope that everyone listening is excited to go to, an LA Galaxy game, and I'm excited to cheer on our team. So thank you so much for being here and shedding some light on how you run this incredible, incredible team and making the best fan experience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, anybody who wants to come out to the game, you should definitely check us out. You're going to have a blast. I'm sure of it.
Visit us at leaderbook.ai. Your support as a subscriber means the world to us. So thank you for tuning in. I'm Felicia Shakiba. Let's connect on LinkedIn.